Okay, in section 1, Islam and the Second Coming, the Gnostic-Jewish Connection, we're going to go through a few things. And again, I'm going to make my first point, which is going to be Islam and the Second Coming. Okay, first point is you cannot separate Islam from the Second Coming of Christ. They are interconnected, okay? If there's no Second Coming of Christ, or if it already happened, the entire Islamic religion can be thrown in the garbage. It's a Jewish Gnostic lie. Okay, that is going to be the first point I'm going to make, and then I'm going to deviate completely just because of this guy who won't debate me, and we're going to look at the dangers of Islam and the Islamic-Jewish alliance. And I don't want to insult Muslims. I have a lot of Muslim friends. I'm sure all of us have met nice Muslims, and my goal is to free Muslims from this Jewish trap, okay? Many of the early Muslims, Islam was it's a Jewish religion, okay? The converts to Islam were Jews. Jewish rabbis converted. Jews led the armies, and they would kill, just like the communist Jews would kill Jews who refused to become communists. Jews would kill their own people who refused to bow down to Islam. Okay, and we're going to talk about that a little later. Islam and Gnosticism. Okay, so I'm going to go over Gnosticism again, and I have another video on this. I'll link it in my description, but I'm going to repeat a few things that I've said before, but we're going to really hammer out Freemasonry and what is Gnosticism and how Islam is really just a Gnostic sect. A lot like, very similar to majority of Christian churches, unfortunately, have a lot of Gnosticism embedded into them, and they're also, I would consider them Gnostic sects. But we're then going to finish off with Muslims, Christians, and Jews fighting globalism together. Okay, so we have right now we still have an option. We can do what the Gnostics, the Freemasons, and the Jews want, kill each other. But we're going to see through history that actually when communism rose up, Muslims, Jews, and Christians actually were fighting communism together. So we have a choice. We can kill each other, which is what they want, or we can not fall for their nonsense. We'll read some history, and we can actually fight this together. And that's kind of how I'm going to try to end this on a positive note. Okay, so Islam and the Second Coming. So in Islam, to deny the Second Coming of Christ is almost equivalent to denying Muhammad himself. Okay, the following verses will show us how Islam is dependent on the Second Coming of Christ and the end of days. All right. So Surah 4, 136, and Surah are the chapters in the Quran. Okay, so go to chapter 4, 136. O you who have believed, believe in Allah and His Messenger, and the book that He sent down upon His Messenger, and the scripture which He has sent down before. And whoever disbelieves in Allah, His angels, His books, His messengers, and the last days has certainly gone astray. All right? So the first thing I want to point out, you can see that if you disbelieve in Allah, His angels, His books, His messengers, and the last days, you have gone astray. So you have to believe in the last days, okay? Now, I highlighted the word angels and messenger just because they're the same word. The word angel is an untranslated Greek word. I imagine in the Arabic it probably says jinns or something, like genies or I don't know. But angel and messenger are the same word, okay? If you read Herodotus or any ancient Greek writer, the word angel is not a supernatural being. The word angel is actually like a pastor or an ambassador. Herodotus uses it a lot like a man who is sent by a king. This is, an angel, a guy with a message. He's a messenger, okay? So this word transformed a lot, and if you were to use the word angel to an ancient Greek, angelos, and say that to an ancient Greek, he would immediately think you're talking about a normal man that was sent on a mission. No ancient Greek would think, oh, man with wings and a sword flying down from the sky. That's not how the ancient Greeks use this word. This is a church mistranslation and perversion. Okay, so you have to believe in the last days, and we're going to keep going. Surah 43:61. And his second coming is truly a sign for the hour. So have no doubt about it and follow me. This is the straight path. I love the way the Quran is written. It's kind of, I don't know, to me, maybe it's just the English translation, but to me, it's written in a way where you feel like you're always being talked down to, right? So anyways, here you go, more the second coming. And now we're going to go to the jurisprudence. We're going to go to the law book, the Hadith, Sahih al-Bukhari, and this is really the prime law book of Sharia law. The Quran doesn't tell you how Muhammad lived. It doesn't tell you too much about Muhammad. So in order to know about Muhammad and how can you follow Muhammad, you have to go to the Sahih al-Bukhari. You have to go to the other Islamic sources to learn, how many wives did Muhammad have, and who were his wives, and how old were his wives. You can't find most of this stuff in the Quran. You have to go to the Hadiths like Sahih al-Bukhari. All right, so Allah's apostle said, "The hour will not be established until the Son of Mary, i.e., Jesus, descends among you as a just ruler. Now, he will break the cross, kill the pigs, and abolish the jizya tax." Okay? Money will be in abundance so that nobody will accept it as charitable gifts. That kind of sounds like communism, right? Oh, we won't need money anymore, right? Now, what's ridiculous here is, so you can clearly see that you have to believe in the second coming. Jesus has to return. But when Jesus comes, he's going to abolish the jizya tax. Now, this is ridiculous because this is a tax Muslims force on Christians. If you want to open a church, which you really can't, you need serious permits in an Islamic country. And generally, you're going to be taxed for being a Christian. The reason why Islam had such a big burst of converts after they conquered all these Christian countries was for tax reasons, money reasons. If you were a Christian, you have to pay taxes in Islamic countries. Meanwhile, we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but if you're a Muslim in Canada, a Muslim in the West, and you open a mosque, you get tax exemption. Okay, a mosque is the ultimate money laundering. If you work in organized crime, if you're a criminal with dirty money, oh man, just open a church, open a mosque, open a religious building, a synagogue. The amount of money that you can launder through religion is mind blowing, right? So in Canada, mosques and churches, they don't pay taxes. It's really easy to take dirty, corrupt money, run them through these churches. When I was first becoming a Christian, I found out that the guy that I was learning from, he ran one of I think it was the largest Christian college in Canada, and me and my brother were investigating him on the side, and we discovered that his church organization was actually laundering money to Israel to fund the Lone Soldier program, which was to help, I guess, young poor Jews go to Israel to become soldiers. And anyways, his entire church was a scam. It's one of the biggest in Canada, if not the biggest. And it was just a money laundering operation. So I just find it ironic that when Jesus comes back, he's going to abolish the tax that Muslims force on Christians. Meanwhile, in Christian countries, Muslims get tax exemption. All right, it's really so. Now this is covered. You can see here's the scripture. Not the scripture. Here's the Islamic scripture. The Islamic quotes to prove that you can't separate the second coming from Islam. So now we know this. We're gonna deviate now, but the point of this again is, uh, when we get to the end of this little series, we're going to be able to show you that the second coming already happened. So these Muslims are all waiting for an event that's already documented. Okay? So if the second coming already happened, all of this is a lie. Throw Islam in the garbage. It's just a Jewish Gnostic trick, and I hope to free Muslims from it. Okay? Now, the first thing we're going to bring out is that Islam was born from Jewish ashes, right? So, the Jewish kingdom of Himyar, and very few people know this, but there was a kingdom in Arabia that had completely converted to Judaism. And they were around for nearly 200 years as a Jewish kingdom. And they were destroyed by a Christian kingdom, okay? So there was some politics happening. See, at this time, Islam doesn't exist yet, okay? Islam is about to come out of this region right after this Jewish kingdom is destroyed. So let's really think about this. Here we have a Jewish kingdom in Arabia. They're fighting with Christians, and this Christian kingdom of Aksum, this Ethiopian Christian kingdom, which is backed by the Roman Empire, they're going to come in and destroy this Jewish kingdom when these Jews start massacring Christians. And they're going to start killing Christians because of events happening north of them in the Roman Empire. So if Christianity is a Jewish trick to enslave the Europeans, why are Jews always killing Christians? Okay? Why does this Christian kingdom have to come in and destroy this Jewish empire? This Jewish little kingdom here. And as you can see, what region are they fighting over? They are fighting over the Horn of Africa. Okay? These are where boats come in for trade. This is a very strategic location. This is like equivalent to owning the Strait of Gibraltar. Okay? So whoever controls the Horn of Africa controls the trade coming into the Mediterranean. Okay? So what's going on above them is you have the Romans fighting the Persians. Persians at this point are more Zoroastrian. You have a lot of Jews in the Persian Empire, Jews in the Roman Empire, and this is about the time of Justinian. So you have the Justinian Code. You're looking at early 6th century and to mid 6th century. And what's going to happen is the Persians and the Romans are going to fight. They're going to just slaughter each other. And then a plague known as the Justinian Plague is going to come in. And it's going to kill between 20, some sources say 20% of the empire, some say 60%, and the plague went into the Persian Empire as well. So all these Christian lands, all these Zoroastrian lands, they're going to be wiped out by war and then plague. They're all going to get this Justinian plague. This plague is going to come in. But the guys in the desert, see that hot desert, kept all those Jews and Arabs safe from this plague. Okay? The plague didn't come to them. So, what happens is Justinian writes the Justinian Code, and in it he makes a lot of harsh laws for Jews. Jews can't own Christian slaves anymore. Okay? That was one of the laws. So all the Jewish slaves just converted to Christianity, and now they were all freed, right? That's all they had to do. If you were a slave, a Jewish slave, and you converted to the Catholic, Orthodox, or the Roman Church, they were called Catholics at this time too. You're freed, right? So the Jews lost all their slaves; they just had to convert to Christianity. And then the Jews in the Himyar kingdom started killing them all, and then this sparked a war between the Christians and the Jews, and the Ethiopian Christians actually had to go across the Red Sea and conquer and destroy this Jewish kingdom, right? So, yeah, okay, Christianity is meant to subvert the Goy. Well, no, Christians are fighting Jews, stopping Jews, putting laws against Jews, doing everything they can to prevent Jews from rising up above them. All right, so one generation after this Jewish kingdom is gone, um, you could say that it really fell in 525, maybe. You're going to have Muhammad, at least, the image of Muhammad. You're going to have these Arabs and Jews coming out of the desert, and is it like this great conquest? No, they're conquering Persians and Romans, okay, who have just suffered plague. They've lost 25 to 60% of their empire from plague, and they've been fighting at war for hundreds of years. And these Arabs and Jews come right out of the desert. It wasn't some great conquest. They were conquering sick, war-torn people. So they just took all these Christian lands like candy from a baby. All right, so it wasn't some great conquest. So now we're going to look at the Constitution of Medina. And this is the Jewish-Islamic Alliance. Okay, so stop and think about this. Do we have an alliance with the state of Israel today? Is there like a constitution, a treaty, something we can point at that says, yeah, Israel, you're our best friends. You got our back. It says so on this piece of paper. No, it doesn't exist. We don't have an alliance with Israel, yet somehow they're our greatest allies. But the Constitution of Medina, the Jewish-Islamic Alliance, at any moment in time, stop and think about this, at any moment in time, the Jews can pull out this contract and say, hey, you and us have an alliance together. Don't forget what your prophet Muhammad said. Okay, this is recorded by Ibn Ashaq. He's one of the earliest, I'd say, historians for Islam. He was actually from either a family of Jews or Christians that were forcefully converted. And anyways, so Ibn Ashaq, we're going to read the Constitution of Medina. I'm just going to read you the beginning, and we'll go through just a couple clips of it. You can read the whole thing online. I'll put a link in the description eventually. The messenger of God wrote a document between the emigrants and the Ansar, and in it he made a treaty and covenant with the Jews, establishing them in their religion and possessions, and assigning to them rights and duties. So, whosoever among the Jews follow us shall have help and equality. They shall not be injured, nor shall any enemy be aided against them. No separate peace will be made when the believers are fighting in the way of Allah. The believers shall avenge the blood of one another, shed in the way of Allah. Whosoever kills a believer wrongfully shall be liable to retaliation. All the believers shall be against him as one man, and they are bound to take action against him. All right, so parts of the contract include, and the Jews shall bear the burden of their expenses, and the Muslims theirs. And if anyone fights against the people of this code, i.e. of the Jews and Muslims, mutual help shall come into operation, and there shall be friendly counsel and sincere behavior between them, and faithfulness and no breach of covenant. And the Jews shall be bearing their own expenses so long as they shall be fighting in conjunction with the believers. Now, is there a constitution of, I don't know, Jerusalem, where the Jews and Christians have an alliance where they are working together? That the Christians or the Jews can pull out at any moment and say, hey, Christians, we signed this agreement. We work together militarily. What do you think this constitution is about? This constitution was written right as they're conquering Christian lands. Who's the enemy? Who are they fighting? They're fighting Christians. They're taking Roman Christian lands. That's what this constitution is about. Okay? So the first great constitution of Medina that Muslims like to brag about is really a treaty between them and Jews working together. So this Christianity to enslave Europe theory, I mean, I just I can't even believe really it's taken seriously. I just can't. The new Jews consider the New Testament one of the most anti-Semitic books in the world. Um, there's no book that warns you about the Jews more than the New Testament. It's mind blowing for anyone to think this. All right, couple points. If Christianity is a Jewish invention to subvert European nations, then why create Islam or communism to destroy Christian countries? If you've got this grand plot, this grand ploy, I think I heard this guy in one of his videos. He's even claimed that the Jews destroyed their own temple. When the Jews were at the height of power in the world, they had the most beautiful temple, the most beautiful city, the richest city in the Roman Empire. They controlled the entire Mediterranean. They controlled the Roman world. And this guy's saying, yeah, now that we control the world, we're going to blow up our own temple because our real trick is we're going to enslave the world with Christianity, and we're going to do it by destroying our own temple, destroying our country, having millions of our people killed, and that's going to be our trick. It's like not 10D chess. This is like, I don't know. This is like 50,000 dimensional chess. Oh yeah, and in 2,000 years from now, if everything goes right, we'll enslave the world with Christianity after destroying our own temple. And stripping ourselves as the most powerful people in the world. Yeah, that's a great idea. All right, so why would they create Islam or communism and destroy their own invention? Right, this Christianity is their trick to conquer the European world. Right, so let's destroy our trick, 2,000-year-old trick that involved sacrificing our temple, and it's just I don't even know what to say. Why is it that Muslims and Jews have a binding constitution stating that they are allies together? Why is it that Jewish halakha law, Talmudic law, allows Jews to pray in mosques, but forbids them from walking near Christian churches? Think about this. Jews can pray in mosques. Orthodox Jews are allowed to pray in mosques. They can't even go near Christian churches. I was in a car with a rabbi once, a Chabad Lubavitch rabbi, and we were driving in his car. I did a video for him. I was helping him do an interview, and as we're driving back, I asked him. He made a wrong turn, and I'm like, "Oh, we're supposed to be going this way," and he says, "No. When I have my kids in the car, I don't like to drive near churches, especially churches with big crosses out front. So I take detours. We're just taking a detour." So when I tried to point out to this rabbi we're going the wrong way, he then explained to me when his kids are in the car, he will not drive by churches with crosses, right? Does that sound like a friendly relationship? Does that sound like they have an alliance together? Like, is that a mosque? Well, we can go pray in there. We're Jews. The Jewish law allows us. Why did the Jews living in Spain open the gates of Toledo, causing the Muslims to pillage Christian lands, which led to the Islamic conquest of Spain, of Christian Spain? So at this time, Germans were occupying Spain, the Visigoths. And why would the Jews betray the Christians and allow the Muslims to take over Spain, right? Christianity is their trick to enslave the Europeans, right? I don't know. It's like 50,000 dimensional chess or something. Like they're playing so deep that only a Jew can understand how deep these moves are. We're going to use Christianity to enslave the world while destroying Christianity at the same time. Like, oh man, hurts the head. Why did the golden age of rabbinical Judaism happen under Islamic rule in Spain and not under Christian rule? That's right. So the golden age of Jewish culture in Spain, this happened under Islamic rule in Spain. Now, there were some times where certain Jewish tribes, if they didn't go along, they were killed. There were pogroms. The Jews and the Muslims weren't always friends. You'll find some violent stuff in the Hadith, in Islamic history, where they are angry at Jews. But if you study a lot of the people behind it, it's Islam is a Jewish invention. Okay, the Jews were also the very educated, the literate people uh, in Arabia at the time. I'm sure that the Arabic language was not invented by Arabs, it was invented by Arabic Jews. I'm almost sure of that. And, anyways, so the golden age of Jewish culture happened in Spain under Islamic rule, right? Because Christianity is just some trick to enslave the dumb Europeans, right? Why did the Christians ban the Jews from England in 1219? All right. So all throughout European history, the Jews are being banned by Christians, and somehow Christianity is a trick to enslave the Europeans, right? So why would Jews get banned, right? And let's see for how long. Why is it that the Jews were only allowed to return to England after the English Civil War in 1655? This happened after a revolt led by Oliver Cromwell and his Jewish agents, which resulted in the execution of the Christian king, Charles I. Okay, he was a Catholic, and the establishment of the Jewish right and the establishments of the Jewish rights to return to England. The Bank of England was created shortly afterwards in 1694, as well as the Jews took over the British East India Trading Company. They were already the majority shareholders in the Dutch East India Trading Company, but now they're buying up their competition. So that's going to happen too. All right, so someone needs to explain this to me. Is why is it they were kicked out of England by Christians? Oliver Cromwell was given all these Jewish medals and awards. The Jews praise him. Go read it all about Oliver Cromwell in the Jewish encyclopedias. Why did one of the first things he does is after they chop off the Christian king's head? Oh yeah, let's bring these Jews back and let's start a bank. Right, that's how far they had to go to get back into England. And the first time Jews were allowed to even become politicians, I think it was Lionel de Rothschild, in 1848. And let me tell you, it wasn't easy for them. So the people keeping the Jews and Muslims at bay were Christians. And this guy that won't debate me is trying to destroy the one religion that kept these people out of our land, that kept the Jews at bay, that kept the Muslims out. He's saying, oh no, you need to destroy this. Never mentions Islam. Like, go check all his videos, and it's just everything's anti-Christianity, and nothing warning you about Islam. Okay? And anyways, we'll move on. If Christianity is a Jewish trick to enslave Europeans, why did the Jewish Bolsheviks destroy Christian Russia, outlaw God and Christianity, and have the Christian Russian nobility and priests slaughtered? Here's another issue. Why are they destroying their their hyperdimensional 50,000D chess move? Why are they destroying their own ideology that they're using to apparently enslave Europeans? It makes no sense. It's because if you believe in the Bible and trust Jesus, you would never let Jews and Muslims come to power in your country. Okay? You would know better. You'd read the Bible and go, wait a second. We can't have Jews controlling our media, or controlling our militaries, or controlling our politicians, or controlling our law system. It's not to say Jews can't become Christian. I'm half Jewish. I'm a Christian. But we're talking Jewish ideology here. We're talking Gnostics, and what do they believe in? So that's what we're going to talk about next. Okay, so let's just keep going. Why was the first mosque in Britain financed by Jews? Like, stop and think about that. I mean, Who does that? Who goes to another person's country? It's like, I'm invited as a guest. Thank you for allowing me into your home. Oh, I'm just gonna build a bunch of homes, a bunch of mosques for other people. I'm just gonna invite other guests on top of you inviting me, right? So, what did someone? I heard someone explain what the Jews, because this immigration coming into the West is really at the hands of Jews, and at least the Jewish lobbies. Um, and it's like, imagine going around and rounding up all the homeless people in your city and saying, "Hey, do you guys want to come to my house? What you guys want? You guys want to eat? You want dinner? You want dinner? You want dinner?" And you go around collecting all these homeless people, promising them dinner, and then you go open the door of your neighbor while they're in the middle of having dinner, and you open the door and you just bring in all these homeless people, and you say, "Oh, go have dinner," and you then just shut the door and walk away, and you just leave. You just bring all these homeless people and just leave them in your neighbor's house. That's like what these people are doing. All right. So in 1889, this is the year the mosque was completed. Gottlieb Wilhelm Leitner financed the construction of the Shahjana or Shayana Mosque, the first mosque in Britain. And that's just, if that's not sending up alerts and red flags, I don't know what else will. Well, actually, we're gonna keep talking about it. So let's talk about Jewish Islamic similarities. Okay, Jews and Muslims pray in the direction of their holy cities. Okay, so this is one thing that they share in common. You'll notice that the Jews will build their temples or their synagogues facing the direction of Jerusalem. You might find the odd synagogue that wasn't built properly, but for the most part, all synagogues are supposed to face Jerusalem, just as all mosques are supposed to face Mecca. Now, originally, when relationships with the Jews soured, the Qibla, okay, so this is a part of the mosque, uh, was changed towards Mecca. Okay, it used to face Jerusalem. Stop and think about that. All the original mosques were built towards facing either Jerusalem or Petra. There seems to be a debate among scholars. Petra is a city, it would be the capital city of Edom. Um, I think you could say today. Uh, it was named Petra because it means stone. That's the Latin word for stone. And apparently the mosque, because at the mosque in Mecca, they all bow down to a stone, a big black stone that they encased in a vagina-shaped, um, cover. And it's really pagan. It's really creepy. And so the story is that Petra was where this stone, which is what Petra means, the stone where these guys used to pray at. So the big debate is, um, were the Muslims praying towards Jerusalem or Petra? And it's probably Jerusalem, but it could very well be Petra. So they changed the direction. And so another reason given why the Qibla was changed is that Jews viewed the use of Jerusalem as signaling the Muslims' intentions of joining their religion. It was changed to discredit this assumption. So, oh wait, if all the Muslims are praying towards Jerusalem and following all these Jewish customs and fighting killing all the Jews' enemies and fighting for the Jews, oh, maybe people are going to think Islam is a Jewish religion designed to enslave the Goy and conquer Christianity and conquer Europe. Okay? Maybe that's what's really going on here. Maybe that's what this online guy who won't debate me, maybe this is what he should be warning you about, but he's not. He's trying to dismantle Christianity. He's trying to destroy the image of National Socialist Germany. He pretty much he wants to do the same thing the Bolsheviks did. He's a Bolshevik. He's a Marxist. He wants to destroy Christianity. from Europe. That's what he wants to see. That's the exact same thing that the communists and the Marxists want to see happen in Europe. They did it in Russia. They're doing it in America. So this guy, while he fights and claims to expose the Jews, expose the Zionists, um, he took vacations to Israel. He um, he destroys the National Socialist movement, and he destroys Christianity while failing to point out the millions and millions of Muslims that are coming into our countries and how Islam and Judaism are in total alliance with each other. Now, I just want to talk about um, Mecca. And the idea Mecca is this weird city that doesn't exist on any old maps. It's not mentioned in history. It's really a city that they just went, hey, boom, it's our holy city. It's always been here. It's kind of ridiculous. They say that in the Quran that Ishmael and Abraham went down here. They built the Kaaba, and that this was established by Abraham and Ishmael. I want you to really look at how far away. It's 1,500 kilometer drive, okay, through brutal desert, okay, and it's not like that water there is drinkable, okay. So yeah, so the idea that um Ishmael and the Ishmaelites were down here makes absolutely no sense. Nowhere in the Bible does it ever talk about um, Ishmael going down that far, moving that far, living that far, or Abraham going there to build anything with Ishmael. This is just folklore. This is their imaginations. Mecca never existed until much later in history. Um, it's just not a good location. It's not who would want to build a trade route there? There's nothing happening there. And in the Bible, we read that Isaac and Ishmael buried their father Abraham together, right? And they buried him where? In the land of Canaan. Okay. So now this would probably realistically probably take you between a month to 3 months to travel by foot in the ancient world if you're lucky. Okay, so it could probably take you 60 to 90 days. And somehow Ishmael got the message, hey, Abraham's dead, you got to come up, and then we're going to bury him together. So it'd probably take, a quarter of a year to half a year to go there and back in the ancient world, back then at least through the desert, okay, depending what time of year it is. So there's no way that Ishmael was living down there. In fact, the Bible tells us when Ishmael died that his family dwelt in Havilah unto Shur, that is before Egypt that goes towards Assyria. So this idea that Ishmael was down here in Mecca is total nonsense. Even the geography in the Quran, when the Quran talks about certain things, you can tell by reading certain things from the Quran, like it talks about certain vegetation which doesn't grow in Mecca. It talks about how Muhammad would walk by the pillar of salt of Lot's wife. Like, none of these things exist down there. Okay, Mecca is a total fictitious city. It's one of the biggest lies in history. And Ishmael never went down there. And again, if you want to know where the Havilah unto Shur is, again, when Saul is at war with the Amalekites, he fought them, and it's somewhere towards Egypt, over here, going towards Assyria. There's nothing down here with Ishmaelites, not for a long time at least. So there's no way Abraham and Ishmael traveled this far to go build the Kaaba, and that's what this cube is. And what you're going to notice is Muslims pray to this giant cube, and Jews will pray with these cubes on their forehead, which they call phylacteries. Okay, or tefillin. Okay, they wrap their arms with the leather, and these phylacteries are supposed to contain certain segments of the Torah. Now, I don't believe these phylacteries are accurate. I don't believe this is what Moses intended. This is Pharisaic tradition. This is how the Pharisees interpret those verses that Moses wrote, okay? I think they're taken out of proportion. I don't believe we're supposed to actually do anything like this. The only time phylacteries are really mentioned is actually by Jesus, when he's kind of, you know, listen to how Jesus talks about these Jews. Like, just really listen here. Is this not how you feel? For they bind heavy burdens and grievous to be borne, and lay them on men's shoulders, but they themselves will not move them with one of their fingers. But all their works they do for to be seen of men. They make broad their phylacteries, and enlarge the borders of their garments, and love the uppermost rooms at feasts and the chief seats in the synagogues. So they're going to put heavy burdens on you, but they themselves aren't going to lift a finger. And yeah, this is true. I was in the synagogue once. Uh, I was alone in Toronto, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, and I had nowhere to go for the holidays, so I just went to a synagogue during Hanukkah. And I just went into the first synagogue I drove by, and they were super kind to me. The people were very warm, very welcoming. Even though I was a half-breed Jew, this was a very Orthodox synagogue, and they were still very kind to me. But after the rabbi gave his spiel, you know, he gave a talk about how his furnace broke down in the middle of winter, and he bragged openly, we're Jews, we don't work, and when I heard that, it really pissed me off, because I've had every job I've ever had in my life pretty much was hard physical, back breaking. Like, I worked in steel factories, um, I worked in butcher shops. I was in the army. I did parachute training. My whole life has been very physically demanding. Right now, I work as a farmer. Um, so I mean, it really pisses me off that these Jews, these religious Jews, set this example of bragging about getting other people to work for them, right? And here's Jesus just laying into them, pointing out exactly what they are, and how all of this is just for a show. Repetitious praying. Okay, now Christians are guilty of this. There's Christian sects. Not gonna name them, but you know who you are. And vain, repetitious praying, and this is something Jews do. And we're gonna quote some Jesus here. And when thou prayest, thou shalt not be as the hypocrites are. For they love to pray standing in the synagogues and in the corners of the streets, that they may be seen of men. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. But thou, okay, when you pray, enter into your closet, and when you have shut the door, pray to your Father which is in secret, and your Father which sees in secret shall reward you openly. But when you pray, use not vain repetition as the heathen do, the ungodly, okay? For they think that they shall be heard for their much speaking. So don't pray like a zombie. Jesus is saying God doesn't like it. Don't pray like a robot. Talk to God like he's your dad. Talk to him like he's your father. That's the conversation you should be having with God. Not praying on the streets like, look at these Muslims. Who's that for? That's the Muslims saying, we're holier than you. Look at us pray. We block up the streets. We have to pray to our God. Look at how holy we are. Same thing with the Jews. Jesus rebukes this. Don't be like this. Talk to God like he's your father. Okay? Talk to him man to man, or woman to father, girl to dad. That's how you should be talking to God. Okay? Mandatory circumcision and no pork, dietary restrictions. Okay, so that's Christianity. There's no mandatory circumcision, and there's no restrictions on pork, really. So this is something that they share in common. the washing of the hands. Now this is very fascinating. And we're going to read a good Jewish prayer, okay? Blessed art thou, blessed art thou, Lord our God, King of the universe, who sanctified us with his commandments, commanding us to wash our hands. That sounds pretty legit, eh? It sounds pretty authentic. Maybe something out of the Torah. You know, this commandment is not in the Torah. This doesn't exist, okay? The Torah says, what things soever I command you, observe to do, thou shalt not add thereto, nor diminish from it. So what is Moses saying here? He's saying, don't add and don't take away. Do what I command, but don't add and don't take away. Let's read this prayer again. Blessed art thou, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us with his commandments, commanding us to wash our hands. This commandment doesn't exist in the Torah, but why does it exist? Okay, it's called takanot. This is called a rabbinical enactment. This is the rabbis have written the Talmud pretty much makes the rabbis gods on earth. Okay, that is literally what the Talmud does. That you can't disobey the rabbi. Even if the rabbi says left is right and right is left, you have to believe the rabbi. Okay, that is rabbinical Judaism. You cannot question the rabbi. So here we have Jesus. Here we have Jesus in the New Testament. Then came to Jesus scribes and Pharisees, which were of Jerusalem, saying, why do thy disciples transgress the traditions of the elders? See, these are traditions of the elders. This is the Talmud, the oral law. For they wash not their hands when they eat bread. But he answered and said unto them, why do you also transgress the commandment of God by your tradition? Now, this is not about, washing your hands. Okay, is it bad to wash your hands before eating food? No, it's probably a really good thing to do that. You should do it. Is it a bad thing to wash up before praying? No, why not? That's not the problem here. The problem is the rabbis made it a law. They made it a commandment as if God had said it. Okay? That is what's wrong. It's not about washing your hands. It's about what Moses said. What things soever I command you, observe to do. Thou shalt not add thereto, nor diminish from it. And here's Jesus calling out these Pharisees, calling out these Jews, and these scribes who are the people who know the law. He's calling them out on their man-made, invented laws because the Jews don't believe in the Torah. They don't. That's why they had to write the Talmud. And this guy that won't debate me, what's he always doing? He's constantly quoting one or two verses from the Bible, taking them completely out of context, and then he quotes the Talmud for the next 30 minutes. And he doesn't bother to tell you and show you that the Jews don't believe in the Torah. Okay? Why do you think they have Shabbos goys? They actually have goys working for them on the Sabbath. When the Torah says, hey, not even your animals can work on the Sabbath. No one works on the Sabbath. No servants. You don't work. Your kids don't work. Your servants don't work. Your animals don't work. Nobody works on the Sabbath. And what do the Jews do? They hire goys to work on the Sabbath. Why? Because they don't believe in Moses. Okay, and here's Jesus proving it, calling them out. You invent laws and commandments. You don't believe in the Torah. All right, Talmud in the Quran. So at the bottom, you've got Bereshit Rabbah 38 and Surah 21, 51 to 70. You can compare these two stories, and what you're going to find is there's a story in both the Midrash, the Talmud, and in the Quran where Abraham smashes idols, and then he's thrown into fire, and the fire doesn't kill him. And so this story is rabbinical. It doesn't exist in the Torah. Moses never wrote about the story. The story doesn't exist. So we have to ask ourselves, Muslims, how did Midrash, how did the Talmud get inserted into your word of God? Okay? If I was a Muslim, I would want to know, why do we believe in rabbinical, Pharisaic, Talmudic folklore? How did this get into our holy books? Okay, big question. Okay, the word Quran means recitation or the recitation. The word Quran comes from the Hebrew word kara. The Jews used to call the Old Testament the Kara. Okay, so now it's called the Tanakh. Okay, it's like an abbreviation for the Torah, the prophets, and the writings. Okay, the Nevi'im and the Ketuvim. Okay, TNK, Tanakh. But before that, back in the good old Arabic days, the Torah, the Old Testament was called the Kara. And how we know this for sure is there's a sect of Jews, and here's the word here, kara, and it's the Hebrew word. Okay, it has multiple meanings: to preach, proclaim, publish, to read, to say. This is the Jews were known as the reciters because they were constantly reciting the Talmud. Okay, and so the Quran is actually the same word. It's the Arabic word, the Hebrew word of what the Jews used to call the Old Testament. Think about it. Think about that. Okay? We have a sect of Jews called the Karaites. This is called Karaite Judaism. And in Karaite Judaism, why are they called Karaites? Karaites? Because they only believe in the Old Testament. These are actually really great Jews. I'll put a link in the description to one of my favorite Karaite Jew teachers. The reason Karaite Jews are so good is because they are anti-Talmud. They actually really like Jesus. Some of them, because they when they read the New Testament, they go, "Wow, Jesus was always destroying the Pharisees because the Pharisees weren't following Moses. They invented all their own new laws and traditions, and Jesus is just always calling them out on it. Jesus knew Torah. Jesus knew Moses. Jesus knew the Old Testament. And these Pharisees had just warped it into something new. And these Karaite Jews are a sect of Jews that actually grew out of the Islamic world, and they reject the Talmud and the oral law, and they only stick to the Old Testament. And that's why they're called Karaites, because it comes from this word kara, where we get the word Quran. So the Muslims, Quran, kara, you can see this, the Old Testament and the Quran were called the same thing. All right. I hope I've given you some evidence to show you how similar, Muslims are to Jews, and how much closer related they are, down to the fact that they can pray together, walk in each other's holy houses. They've the same dietary restrictions, mandatory circumcisions. Everything's there. And Christianity is in total opposition to all of this. Okay, let's talk about Islam in Canada. Let's just kind of look at something. There were 700 European Muslims in Canada in 1938, so before World War II. Now there are over 1,052,000 Muslims in Canada in 2022. Let's put that into perspective. The Muslim community has grown at a rate of over 150,000% in 82 years. Okay? Or 84 years. Okay? Stop and think about that. Over 150,000%. The Muslim community is expected to grow to 2.7 million Muslims by 2030, raising their population growth rate to 385,000% in less than 100 years. That's what's happening in Canada right now. By 2030, the Muslims, Chinese, and Indian communities will outnumber the Native Americans in Canada. Now, the only group of people Canadians owe anything to are the natives, are the Métis, the natives, and the Inuits. Okay, we have three branches of natives. We have treaties with some and alliances with others. And while you can blame both the Canadian government and, corrupt native chiefs, the natives have suffered a lot. And there is no reason why these, Muslims, Chinese, and Indians have been allowed to prosper in our country, in Canada, while we've been neglecting the only people we have treaties with. See, just like how the Muslims and the Jews have their treaty, us Canadians, we actually have treaties with these Native Americans. And yeah, you can blame the natives for some stuff, and you can blame the white man for other things. We can all blame each other. Okay? But the point is, these other nationalities should not have the right to outnumber the only people we actually had an obligation and a contract to help take care of. Okay? Never should have happened, and that's what's happening right now. Okay? So we have created this monster. Okay? Let's talk about death sentence for leaving Islam. In the Islamic law system, Allah's apostle said, the blood of a Muslim, who confesses that none has the right to be worshipped but Allah, and that I am his apostle, cannot be shed except in three cases. Okay, so the blood of a Muslim cannot be shed except in three cases. Okay, one is for murder, one is for committing adultery. Now, Muslim men can have like 4 wives. Muhammad, I think, had 15. So, I mean, it's probably not going to be the man doing the cheating. It's probably going to be the woman, right? I mean, you got 4 wives, right? Anyways, and one who reverts from Islam, so apostate. So if you try to leave Islam, it carries the death penalty. My old neighbor, his name was Ali. He was from Tehran. Great guy. Really great guy. He was the top student at his Islamic school in Tehran. The top Islamic student. And one day when he was in class, this is hilarious, they quoted the Quran, and they quoted the verse that said that Allah cannot have a son. And he actually stood up and said, that doesn't make any sense. He is God. How can man have sons, but you're telling me God can't have a son? Okay. Do you know what happened to Ali after he got up and tried to fight his teacher? That the Quran is limiting the power of God by stating he doesn't have the power to have a son. Ali was thrown in jail. Okay, he had to spend a couple days in jail. And while he was in jail, he wasn't a Christian. He didn't believe in Christianity. He was a Muslim. He was just saying he didn't believe that God has limits. How can you limit God? How can God give man the power to have children, but you're saying that God doesn't have the power to create a son and create his own son? He didn't agree with the Quran and fought it and was thrown in jail for it. And it was after this that Ali began his journey to Christianity. And he became my neighbor. And he had a family in Ottawa. He lived next to me in Montreal. And he was going to school while working, supporting his family while going to school. And he eventually got a job, a good job in computer engineering. But he can never go back home. He can never go back. If he ever goes back to Iran, because he was a Muslim, he will be executed because he left the Islamic religion. Okay, next hadith. Ali burnt some people. Okay, not my Ali, but this devout follower of Muhammad. And then they get into a huge fight, and you shouldn't burn people. No doubt I would have killed them, for the Prophet said, if somebody, a Muslim, discard his religion, kill him. Okay, if you want to leave the Catholic Church, I mean, maybe back in the old days they'd kill you for that. But you want to, nowhere in the Bible does it say kill a Christian for leaving. This is barbaric. This is ridiculous. If you want to know how Islam gets its numbers up so high, number one, it was a religion built on conquest, conquering sick people, and a nation plagued by war and literally a plague. Okay, then they just walked in and took all these Christian lands from the desert, and forced taxes on anyone that wasn't a Muslim, right? And then if you want to leave the religion, we'll kill you, right? That's like it's like also like Freemasonry. Okay, and here's an example, another one. This is right out of their law book. This is like the Talmud of the Muslims, Sahih al-Bukhari. Okay, and you can also quote Sahih Muslim, but Sahih al-Bukhari is the main. This is kind of like their Talmud. Okay, a man embraced Islam and reverted back to Judaism. Okay, and this Adi bin Jabal came and saw the man with Abu Musa. Okay, and then he asked, "What is wrong with this man?" Abu Musa replied, "He embraced Islam and reverted back to Judaism." And then the guy says, "I will not sit down unless you kill him, as it is the verdict of Allah and His Apostle." So even Jews, I was a Muslim, but now I'm coming back to Judaism. I will not sit down unless you kill him, right? Kill this guy. Oh yeah, this is the religion of peace, right? This is the religion of peace. All right, so now we're going to talk about Gnosticism and the fusion of monotheism and polytheism. Okay, so Gnosticism, a system of belief in antiquity which held that the words of the Bible contained a special hidden meaning, which was the real one, while the literal meaning represented a lower degree of understanding. Okay, so it maintained that this higher meaning is known to the initiated only, and that the knowledge of it raises him who possesses it above the masses who are content with the usual meaning of the words. Okay, so what is a Gnostic? Gnosticism really means gnosis, knowledge. It's someone who thinks he knows more than you, someone who thinks he's smarter than you. Okay, and that the Bible isn't the real Bible, that there's a secret code. And yeah, okay, I can show you some examples with numerology or some other stuff from the Bible that's kind of cool, and there you might be able to find some cool stuff in here, but these guys are claiming, so understand Gnostics, Freemasons, and also Jews, they claim that there's a hidden meaning, and that what you read, it's like an art painting, that there's layers to it, and if you're dumb enough to believe what's written here, and you can't see the true meaning that only they know, then you're too stupid. You don't have the knowledge. You're not a Gnostic. You don't have the gnosis. Okay? And that's why it says those who based their teachings on such as esoteric meaning of the scriptures were called Gnostics. They were found among the adherents of both Judaism and Christianity. It is Philo who first reveals the traces of such a belief in a hidden meaning to the Torah in the form of a conscious and deliberate system, but the origins of the tendency go back further. It's true, this is probably more ancient Greek, even probably goes back to Egypt and Mesopotamia, the mystery religion of Babylon, and but now Gnosticism is going to get incorporated with the Torah. Okay, so the teaching of Gnosticism affected a fusion of the Jewish or Christian ideas with a number of current pagan polytheistic conceptions. Later on, the movement split into a number of different groups. The motive at the basis of the Gnostic movement was the desire to explain away the difficulty produced by the fact that God, who is good, is said to be the creator and ruler of a world in which there is so much that is imperfect and evil. Okay, so the Gnostics don't like this idea that God created good and evil, so they divide God. Okay, anyone who tells you God is only good, God can only do good. God will never let bad things happen to you. God doesn't do that. Okay, that's a Gnostic concept. Okay, the God of the Bible lets bad things happen, allows bad things to happen, causes bad things to happen, but those bad things that happen always will go to serve good and the glory of God. So even though there's a purpose to the bad, is what the God of the Bible says. Bad serves the good. Okay, it's just how nature works. Nature dies, everything falls apart, everything biodegrades, and then everything comes back to life. Okay, and it all goes through a circle. You know, I just had to, you know, kill a goat. That I, I brought into the world. This is the first time I've ever seen an animal come into the world. I helped raise this animal, and then it had to die. Right? It's just the life on the farm. And then I have to watch now the animal that was once eating the grass is now dead, has now become grass. Do you see what I mean? And then it just it goes into the earth, it dies, and then it becomes the earth, and the cycle just kind of continues, right? And that's so from the evil comes good. But what do these Gnostics do? Okay. The Gnostics attempted to solve this difficulty by supposing that there were two persons in the divinity, the highest God and the demiurge. So there's a good God and a bad God, or the creator of the world. Okay, so the demiurge is the creator of the world. He's evil. Okay. According to their doctrine, the highest God is enthroned above the world in infinite sublimity and has nothing to do with it at all. So the true God of the Gnostics, of the Freemasons, and the Kabbalistic Jews, well, this God is so high and above, he doesn't care about the world. Okay? From him, there emanates a number of beings which are represented either as independent beings or else perceived as revelations of the essence of the highest God in such a manner that the danger of their being made independent was very great. Okay, so this other God is so powerful that there emanates all these, like this demiurge. Okay, so the creator of the world proceeded from the highest God. It was he who created the world. He chose Israel and is their redeemer, and who promulgated the law, okay, the Torah. He created the world by giving form and shape to the primeval matter which had always existed. Accordingly, everything good is an emanation of the highest God. Everything defective and evil owes its origin to the primitive matter, and the law, the Torah, is not the emanation of the exalted God, as appears to those who understand the words of the Torah literally, but proceeds from a less exalted being, the creator of the world, and is therefore not the expression of the highest perfection. This is from the Jewish Encyclopedia of 1945 to 1948. By the way, the word Holocaust, gas chambers, none of that stuff exists in this encyclopedia. I should take pictures of that. Anyways, so understand that when you see these Freemasons and these Kabbalists reading and they hate the God of the Torah. They hate the God of the Bible. Okay? Why do these Pharisees invent new laws and change the Torah and say, oh, they don't like the God of the Bible? So whenever you see these Freemason lodges, whenever you see a Freemason, just understand what they believe in. They are your enemy. They've always been our enemies, okay? You just need to learn their religion. All right, so we're going to move on, and we're going to talk about what they are trying to do, infuse monotheism with polytheism. And then, yeah, I've got the Soviet Union here, and the reason is the Soviet Union they were Freemasons and Jews who started the Soviet Union. Okay, if you go back in history to the first time they tried to take over Russia in 1825, this is called the Decembrist Revolution. It was a failed Freemason revolution, right? There were Freemason revolutions all around the world, America, France, everywhere. Okay, the liberalism was exploding. All right. Um, and they tried to take over Russia, but they failed, right? And the first thing the communists did, one of the first things they did, they built a Freemason monument in St. Petersburg to honor the Freemasons who first failed at what they accomplished. Okay, stop and think about that. The Soviet Union was apparently anti-Freemason, and yet here they are building a Freemason monument to the Freemasons who first tried to do what they accomplished. And look at the symbol of the Soviet Union. We're going to talk about that too. The crescent giving birth to the sun. All right. Also the obelisk, which is to represent the missing penis of Osiris, the god of Egypt. Very Gnostic, very Egyptian, and it's whenever you see an obelisk, it's really a symbol of rebellion to God. Okay, that's their hatred for the God of the Torah. So Gnostic symbols. Okay, so this crescent Islamic symbol, the moon giving birth to the sun, the woman. Okay, it's a fertility goddess giving birth to the sun, and you'll see the exact same thing with the Soviet Union. And this goes back to ancient Sumeria. You can go back to ancient Sumerian artwork and find the crescent moon. You can go back to ancient Carthage, and you'll also find hexagrams. I'm not sure. This is debatable if this is what the Jews are basing it off of. I don't know. Maybe not. Inside the hexagram, though, you will notice there are 6 points. There are 2 triangles, right? So 6 points, 2 triangles. Triangle plus triangle is 3 plus 3, which is 6. And inside the hexagram, you have, you have a hexagon and 6-sided shape here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So in here, you have the number 666. That's another thing about the Star of David. Now we're going to continue Gnostic symbols. We'll go to ancient Egypt now, and what does this crescent with the sun coming out of the crescent symbolize? This is actually symbolic of the golden calf of when the Israelites were told, don't worship the golden calf. When the Israelites were leaving Egypt, the goddess of fertility that was worshipped during the Old Kingdom time and the Second Intermediate Period time was a goddess named Hathor. And she's depicted as a bull with horns giving birth to a son, okay, with a disc coming out of it, okay? So when you see this symbol, I just want you to understand it is a symbol of rebellion to the God of the Torah. So if you're a Muslim, why are you using this symbol? Soviet Union, why did you use this symbol? It's a direct, it's just pretty much giving the finger to the God of the Torah. That's what this symbol, the ancient use of this symbol really was. So any Gnostic, a well-educated Gnostic who looks at the symbol of the Soviet Union would go, yeah, I know what that means. Any well-educated Gnostic who looks at the symbol of the Islam goes, yeah, I can see my hidden Gnostic religion in there. I can see it. I know it really comes from Egypt. I know what it means. It's our rebellion towards the God of the Torah. All right. Don't think Christians are out of this one. So, while most Christians will look at this, Catholics and Orthodox love their idols, their venerating or whatever you call it. I'm just telling you as a Gnostic, okay, how a Gnostic would view this. Okay, if I were a Gnostic, I would look at this painting and go, oh, this was done by one of us. I can see the woman. I can see the crescent, the horns, the moon shape behind her, and of course she's holding the sun. All right, and now we go to Egypt, and you can see Isis. This is either Isis or Hathor. They're interchangeable, really. As A Gnostic would see this. They're like, yeah, that's my religion. A Gnostic made this painting. They're communicating with each other through art, through their work, and believe it or not, this is telling them, any Gnostic who looks at this painting, seeing this woman with the crescent but holding the sun, it's exactly like the crescent moon. This is the crescent in the Soviet Union giving birth to the sun. Here's the sun. It's going back to the ancient religion, and they're communicating with each other. And any Gnostic would know, all right, we're here. We're in here. We own this. Okay, so this is whether you like it or not, like a Gnostic does. The average Christian is going to see, oh, look, cute Mary and Jesus. They're going to see layer 1 to the painting. The Gnostic is going to look beyond it and go, I see layer 2. We did this, and we hate this God. Okay? All right, so understand that to be a Freemason, to be a Gnostic, you have to believe in God, right, to become a Freemason. This is one of the rules before you enter a Freemason lodge. The true religion of the elite Gnostics is mesotheism, and most of you have probably never heard this term before. This is actually the true religion of the high Masons, the high Gnostics, the high Kabbalists. Okay, when you climb the top of this ladder of nonsense, you learn that their religion is something called mesotheism. And in Greek, mesotheism is the hatred of God, exactly what the Gnostics believe in, the definition of the Gnostic. Okay, and their goal is to transform our monotheist religion and create this dual gods that are fighting each other, and mix the polytheistic world with the monotheistic world to discredit the God of the Bible. And this is where you get something called henotheism or henotheism, and it's really lesser god of evil versus superior god of good. Okay, and this is not the Old Testament. This is not monotheism. Okay, you're going to have evil gods and demigods versus good gods and demigods, fallen angels and demons versus angels and saints. All this kind of mythological stuff that you'd expect from the ancient Greek world or the ancient Roman world, and that's really what they've done. Okay, they've transformed, they've controlled, I think, the churches since the very beginning. Let's play a little game. Let's play a game, and I give you a moment, and I'm going to say, name this God. All right, so I'll give you a minute, and here's some clues, maybe. Is it A, the Greek god Phosphorus? B, the Roman god Lucifer? Did you know that? Did you know that Lucifer was part of the Roman pantheon? Did you know that? Is he C, the Jewish angel Samael? Is he D, the Islamic angel Iblis, which is Lucifer? All answers are correct, so if you said any of these, you, my friend, you won the prize. Okay? The question is, how did a Greco-Roman god become the villain in the Christian Bible? I want you to really think about that. Really stop and think about that. The Roman god Lucifer is based off the Greek god Phosphorus. And when you walked into the old Roman temples, there was a god who looked like this, winged and all, and his name was Lucifer. He's a Roman god. He's not Christian. He's based off the Greek god Phosphorus. They both kind of have the same kind of meaning, light, shiny, brightness. Okay? How did that happen? Have you as a Christian ever asked yourself, how did a god from the Roman pantheon enter our Bibles when we're told not to worship this stuff? How about this? Name this god and name this goddess. Right? Cue up the Jeopardy music. I'll give you guys a moment. Hell, I'll even give you guys a clue. I am he that liveth and was dead, and behold, I am alive forevermore. Amen. And have the keys of hell Hades in Greek, end of death. So if you answered the Norse goddess Hel and the Greek god Hades, you win the prize. I have no idea what prize that is. So what's the problem here? We look at our Bibles. Do you believe in hell? Do you as a Christian believe in the Norse goddess of the underworld? Do you believe in the Greek god Hades? Do you think when you die you go to hell? Let's translate that properly. I am he that liveth and was dead, and behold, I am alive forevermore. Amen. And have the keys of the grave and of death. That's actually the proper translation. Now, there's a reason. There's a reason why that this translation carried on, and it's not. As Christians, we're not supposed to believe in pagan gods. All right, we have to remove paganism out of the Bible. We have to move, and this is what the Gnostics are doing. The Gnostics are trying to take paganism, polytheism, and mishmash it, mix it into the Torah and into the Old Testament, and trick us into believing in it. Okay, so let's look at another example. He, seeing this before, spake of the resurrection of Christ, that his soul was not left in hell, or Hades, neither his flesh did see corruption. Now, do you really think that Christ went to hell? Did he? Did Christ go to the Norse god of the underworld? Did Christ go to Hades, the Greek god of the... No. When we translate this properly, he, seeing this before, spake of the resurrection of Christ, that his soul was not left in the grave. Jesus was buried in a grave. Neither his flesh did see corruption. Okay, so what we have to try to do, our best as Christians, is to go through the scriptures, understand that our books, our Bibles, our belief have been in the hands of Gnostics for almost 2,000 years. And we have to figure out what do they believe in, and then we have to go through the Bible and slowly start picking at it and finding all their Gnostic fingerprints. Okay, we have to find what did they do? How did they tamper with it? And eventually, believe me, when you do this, you've been doing this as long as me, it's almost like you can make predictions. Oh, if they did this here, I bet you if I go to this book in the Bible, I'm going to find that. And you can start seeing the game that they're playing. Okay? So Lucifer is missing from the Torah. The Greek god Phosphorus, the Roman god Lucifer, he doesn't exist. Okay? So the Greco-Roman god Lucifer does not exist in the Torah. Fallen angels do not exist in the Torah. This is just rabbinical folklore. The word Satan does not exist in the English Torah. Isn't that odd? Isn't that odd that Moses wrote 2 books on the law and never bothered to tell us that, hey, you guys are battling fallen angels and some guy named Lucifer or Satan? Doesn't exist. Now, Satan serves God as a messenger in Numbers 22, verse 22, chapter 22, verse 22. And only by reading the Bible in Hebrew will the word Satan actually show up. So in the English Bible, you will not find the word Satan. It's not there. It doesn't exist. And in the book of Job, when you read it, you're going to notice that Satan serves and obeys God and his commandments. Okay? So there's really only one time where the word Lucifer is used, and it's really the King James Bible that pushes this one. And it says, How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which did weaken the nations? Now, what's the problem? What's the problem? Can you spot the problem? This is an English Bible that was translated directly from the Hebrew Bible. How did an untranslated, that word Lucifer is an untranslated Latin word. That is a perfect Latin word. Untranslated, capital L, because it's a person. We got to make this throw this. Now, in the Latin Vulgate, there's no capital on it. You can go to the Catholic version of this. That word's there. but it's in Latin like it should be, and there's no capital L. The Vulgate actually has a way more accurate translation than the King James. Oh, Lucifer, how did you get there? How does an untranslated Latin word get there? Well, what are the Gnostics trying to do? They're trying to insert polytheism into the Torah. They're trying to mash paganism with monotheism. That's their goal. Okay? Now, if you read the context of this chapter, thou shalt take up this proverb, and that word proverb is also a parable, against the king of Babylon, and say, how has the oppressor ceased? The golden city ceased. The Lord has broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers. What is this chapter about? It's about God saying, take a parable, take this proverb, and send this message to the king of Babylon. It has nothing to do with fallen angels. Okay, Lucifer is a Roman god. He's a Greek god. He's not in the Torah. He's not, right? If you read the Young's Literal, has a way better translation. How has thou fallen from the heavens, O shining one, which is what Lucifer means. Okay, translate the word. Don't. Okay, in Hebrew, it would probably be the word Hallel, which means bright, shining. Okay, same thing. Son of the dawn, thou has been cut down to earth, O weakener of nations. See, so we have to be very careful. We have to know who our enemies are. We have to know what they're trying to do, and we actually really have to be careful when we're reading the Bible. We have to really study this stuff. Okay? And this is when the only time the word Satan is used in the Torah, in Hebrew. In English, they actually translated the word Satan properly. It's this word adversary. Okay? And God's anger was kindled because he went, and the angel, the messenger of the Lord, of Yehovah, stood in the way for Satan, an adversary against him. So here we have Satan as an angel of the Lord. Satan serving God. What? How does that make sense? How is Satan? Well, go read the book of Job. Satan obeys every word God says to him. He's not rebelling. If Lucifer and Satan was a rebel against God, and God gave him an order, what does a rebel do? Tell him to F off. Leave me alone. I don't care. I can do my own thing. I'm not going to listen to you. I'm a rebel. Right? What does Jesus say? For had ye believed Moses, you would have believed me, for he wrote of me. But if you believe not his writings, how shall you believe my words? And I'm telling you, when we go to Moses, none of this pagan stuff exists. Okay? It was all added in the first century, all through mistranslations, and it was really when the Bible went from Hebrew to Greek, which we'll talk about later on. Okay? Now, if you want to know, if you want a source as a Christian, okay, you want a source for the fall of Lucifer, we have to go to the Islamic Quran. All right? So if someone ever asks you, hey, where can I read the story about the fall of Lucifer and Satan? Well, it doesn't exist in the Bible, but we can turn to the Islamic Quran for our answer. I want you to think about how embarrassing that is as a Christian. You can't turn to the book of Moses to explain Lucifer. You actually have to go to the Islamic Quran to prove to people that there's a fallen angel named Lucifer. Now, we are going to read the passage from the Quran. We're going to read how ridiculous. Okay, and if you're a Muslim, I'm not trying to insult you. I'm trying to help you. Okay, really ask yourself, does this sound like the word of God? Surely we created you, then shaped you. Now, this is Allah talking, okay? Then said to the angels, okay, Allah says to the angels, prostrate before Adam, okay? So bow down to Adam, tells all the angels. And that, again, that word angel is an untranslated Greek word. It's a ridiculous word there. So they all did, but Iblis, Lucifer, who refused to prostrate with the others. Okay, so they all did, but not Iblis. He refused. Allah asked, "What prevented you from prostrating when I commanded you?" He replied, "I am better than he is. You created me from fire and him from clay." Alright, so here's Allah, who's really an idiot, telling all his superior angelic fire beings to bow down to Adam, the clay being that he just created. Now, Muslims right away should be like, well, you shouldn't bow down to men, right? You shouldn't, be prostrating, not even the angels, right? You only bow down to God, really. But here's Lucifer saying, "I am better than he is. You created me from fire and him from clay." And read Allah's response. "Then get down from paradise. It is not you to be arrogant here. So get out. You truly are one of the disgraced." Okay, now that's God. That is the God of Islam. That is how he speaks. Now maybe it sounds more poetic in Arabic and the English really butchered it. I don't know. But really stop and think about that. All he's saying is, look, I'm not going to bow down to this guy. I'm made of fire. He's made of clay. And Allah says, "Then get down from paradise. It is not you to be arrogant here, so get out. You are truly one of the disgraced." And then Lucifer, Iblis, appeals. "Then delay my end until the day of resurrection." Allah said, "You are delayed until the appointed day." Like, this is just really terrible writing, really terrible dialogue. All right, I'm being kicked out of paradise, but you're going to delay my end until the day of their resurrection, because I guess he knows about that. And Allah says, "You are delayed until the appointed day." So Allah gives him this, right? He said, "Ah, now this is Iblis, for leaving me to stray, I will lie in ambush for them on your straight path. I will approach them from their front, their back, their right, their left, and then you will find most of them ungrateful." Allah said, "Get out of paradise. You are disgraced and rejected. I will certainly fill up hell with you and your followers altogether." And then Allah says, "O Adam, live with your wife in paradise and eat from wherever you please, but do not approach this tree, or else you will be wrongdoers." Okay. So this is our source on the fall of Satan, the fall of Lucifer. You will not find it in the Bible. Don't even bother trying. You won't find it. You're going to have to go to the Book of Enoch, maybe, the Talmud. You're going to have to go to Islam. You won't find it in the books of Moses. All right. In fact, we're going to go through a story right now. In a minute, we're just going to look at some verses from the Bible that talk about monotheism. And this is called the Shema. Okay, all Jews know it. You have to say this several times in synagogue. Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. And all this means is, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord." Okay, Yehovah is one God. Okay, there's one God. Okay, this is in the New Testament. Jesus answered him. One of the scribes came to try to trick Jesus, and Jesus nails him here with proper Torah. The first of all the commandments is, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord." Okay, very interesting. Let's look at some more verses. Moses here. "Unto thee it was showed that thou mightest know that the Lord Yehovah, okay, he is God. There is none else beside him." There's none else beside him. "Wherefore thou art great, O Lord God." Okay. "For there is none like thee, neither is there any God beside thee, according to all that we have heard with our ears. That all the people of the earth may know that the Lord is God," okay, Yehovah is God, "and that there is none else." There is none else. "For thou art great, thou doest wondrous things, thou art God alone." Wow. Okay. "For all the gods of the nations are idols." Oh, like Lucifer, the Roman god Lucifer, and Phosphorus, the Greek god, their idols? But the Lord made heaven and earth. Shall a trumpet be blown in the city, and the people not be afraid? Shall there be evil in a city, and Yehovah, the Lord, has not done it? Of course God did it. He's not blaming it on Lucifer. He's not blaming it on Satan. This is my favorite. I am the Lord, and there is none else. There is no God beside me. I girded thee up, though thou hast not known me, that thou may know from the rising of the sun and from the west that there is none beside me. I am the Lord, there is none else. I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do these things. Shouldn't it say Lucifer? Shouldn't it say, actually, the Roman god Phosphorus, he's the bad guy? No. So we're going to just look at it really quickly. A story from the Old Testament. The prophet Elijah is one of those famous prophets. He doesn't have a book. He's just shortly mentioned. And understand that this story only takes place in northern Israel. There are no Jews involved in this story. This is not a Jewish story. Elijah is from Gilead, and Gilead is a part of Israel that was kind of like a mixture of Manasseh, so Joseph and Reuben and Gad, three of Israel's sons, kind of mishmashed in this region, and it was known as Gilead. And this is where Elijah's coming from, and Elijah is specifically going to preach against the northern children, the northern tribes of Israel. Okay, there's no Jews. The Jews are in the south. This is all northern Israel. So this is not a Jewish story. And pretty much, I'm just going to kind of summarize it. Well, you can read it if you want. Go to the Bible, take out your Bibles and read. But really what's happening here is it's Elijah versus 450 priests of Baal. So you've got a monotheistic prophet. You got one guy trying to prove to the others that there's only one God, and you've got 450 of these other guys that have convinced the whole nation to believe in these multiple gods, to believe in demons, to believe in devils. You got to believe is all these gods, and you got poor Elijah here, all by himself, and he proposes a challenge to the polytheistic, to the or you can say even maybe henotheistic, to the pagans. And he says, all right, look, we're going to build two altars. You're going to call upon your God, and I'm going to call upon my God. And whichever God sets the fire and lights the altar, then we know that God is true. All right. So now in this story, okay, so this is where it says, the God that answers by fire, let him be God. And the people are all watching, right? Everyone's watching, and the people don't know what to do. They don't know who to believe in. They've been tricked into believing in this multiple polytheistic system. They've been tricked into sacrificing their children. It's very, they're just degenerates, just like our world today. And here comes little, poor Elijah all by himself. So he lets them go first, right? So the priests of Baal, 450 of them, right? They dress their sacrifice, and all the people are watching. And from morning to noon, they just shouted. They did their rituals. And when by the time noon came, Elijah started kind of mocking them. Oh, cry louder. Maybe he's sleeping. Maybe he's on a journey. Elijah starts cracking jokes at them. They cried louder. They started cutting themselves. Blood started. They did these weird pagan rituals or polytheistic rituals, right? And Elijah just kind of mocks them. So by the time midday comes, there was no answer. No angel came. Where was Iblis? Where was Lucifer? Wasn't he made of fire? See, all Lucifer has to do in this story, all he has to do to make the God of Israel look terrible is show up. He just has to walk on the fire, walk on the wood, and it'll just ignite. And everyone will go, oh my God, the God of Israel's a liar. But he doesn't show up. There's no. And what does Elijah do? Elijah says, you know what? I'm going to dump water on my sacrifice. Get 12 stones to represent the 12 children of Israel, and get 4 barrels of water and dump them 3 times. Okay, and that's exactly what he does. And Elijah gives a little prayer, and then fire of the Lord fell and consumed the burnt sacrifice and the wood and the stones and the dust, and licked up the water that was in the trench. And when all the people saw it, they fell on their faces and said, Yehovah, okay, the Lord, He is God. Yehovah, He is the God. And Elijah said unto them, Take the prophets of Baal, let not one escape. And they took them, and Elijah brought them down to the brook of Kishon, and they killed them all. Right? All right. So Lucifer, just all he had to do was show up. Why didn't he? For all the gods of the nations are idols, but the Lord made heaven and earth. They're not real. That's why. That's why in this story, there was no Lucifer showing up to set up to light a fire. So if you want to, so Muslims, Jews, they're not monotheists. Most of them are Gnostics, destroying monotheism, perverting it. The same with Muslims. Muslims are not monotheists; they are polytheists, henotheists. They bow down to rocks. They're pagans. Okay, in all ways, mixed with Jewish, with Judaism, with Talmudic Judaism. All right, this is getting kind of long. So that's what this is, and we're gonna just end. I do want to point out, with the rise of, again, my goal isn't to insult the Muslims, my goal isn't to insult pagans, my goal isn't even to insult Christians and Jews. I'm just, we have a threat rising, and it's called communism, and I'm going to give the Muslims their due credit, because during the Russian Civil War and World War II, Muslims, Christians, and Jews actually fought this ideology together. They fought liberalism and communism together. Okay? I'm going to quote to you from the last commanding officer of Imperial Russia. His name is Peter Wrangel. And what he said was, okay, and you got to understand, he took command of the Russian army when it was already doomed. He didn't take, had Peter Wrangel been in command of the Russian army from the beginning, they would have won the war. No question. He took command when Denikin and Kolchak failed, the other commanders of the White Russian army. And Peter Wrangel is really the first guy to fight the Soviet Union. Okay, or he was there at the beginning. And he took command when all was hopeless, because he said, we might as well go down with honor. And he did. He's one of the greatest men who ever lived. Peter Wrangel, he's just, God just doesn't make them like him. He's just a very special man. And what he said was, as I had no one in mind for my chief of staff, the commander-in-chief suggested my having General Yuzefovich. I did not know him personally, but only by reputation, and a very good reputation it was. I accepted the suggestion and have never regretted so doing. I could not have had a better man. General Yuzefovich was a Jew. He was the right hand of the last commander of Imperial Russia. He was a hero in the Russo-Japanese War, and he fought communism to the end. All right, so here's a Jew. You want to blame Jews for communism. And what else does Peter Wrangel say? Our neighbors were Tatars, okay? Sworn enemies of the Reds. And more of them were Mohammedans. And they used to warn us of the slightest danger which threatened us. When the Soviet Union was rising, I want you to understand that godly men who feared God and loved God all fought together, side by side, Muslims, Jews, and Christians, whatever, to stop the rise of atheist, this atheist communist movement that was rising. Okay? This is completely off topic, but I just want to say it because I'm talking about Peter Wrangel. I just want you to compare what he says about the Germans here. Germans are always hated and blamed and called the worst people in the world. But he said, I must give the Germans their due. They behaved with decency and their best to avoid annoying the inhabitants of the country that they were about to occupy. Peter Wrangel, when you read his book, he really gives the Germans a lot of credit and says, these Germans, they leave our cities in good shape. They leave our people in good shape. They do the best they can to not piss off the civilians. It's the opposite. Okay, so the guy who's fighting the communists, the first, pretty much Hitler, was trying to continue Wrangel's work. Wrangel was trying to stop the communists from taking over Russia and Europe, and Hitler tried to do the same after. And this guy, this Russian, who's the enemy of the Germans, he says, you got to really give the Germans their credit. Give them their due. Give them credit because they took care of the cities. They didn't harass the people who lived there. They were just good people. Okay? Compare that to at the beginning of the Civil War, before the Bolsheviks had begun raising recruits, their army had been composed solely of escaped convicts. Out of riffraff and the scum of the old army, they robbed and massacred the populace, killed off the wounded, and raped the women. Actually, every time Peter Wrangel and the White Army conquered say the Soviets, the Red Army took a city and Wrangel took it back, he would find all the women raped, all the children raped, dead, killed, slaughtered. Only the people who hid in the countrysides, who hid like in forests or in hay and whatever, would emerge, and there'd be a few survivors. But Peter Wrangel said, every time what should have been a victory, we just took this city back. It's now in white control. He said it felt like a failure. It didn't feel like a victory because by the time the White Army took the city, the women were all raped and murdered. The men were crucified to doors. This communist movement was really evil. And my point is, Muslims, Christians, and Jews actually fought this together. And instead of fighting each other, perhaps we can put our differences aside and fight the real enemy at hand. Now, if you ever wondered why you find like the Catholics, Pope John Paul kissing the Quran, right, and wearing hats, they pray in hats, they wear these little kippas like Jews. I'm not a fan of the Catholic Church. Love Catholics, not a fan of the Catholic Church. It's really because World War II was a Freemason communist victory over the world. And if you don't believe me, here's the flag of Eastern Germany. And they're not hiding. Imagine they defeated Hitler. Who was Hitler at war with? Hitler was at war with Jews, communists, and Freemasons. Okay? Look at the flag of Germany after World War II. It's literally communism and Freemason mixed together. That's the flag of Eastern Germany. You've got a Masonic compass, and you've got the hammer and the wreath also of communism. You've got a mixture of Freemasonry and communism. This is the flag of Germany after World War II, of Eastern Germany. If you're wondering why the Pope's kissing the Quran, is because after World War II, the Vatican was really the Catholic Church versus communism and Freemasonry. And the Catholic Church was on the side of Hitler. And after they lost World War II, the Vatican was then filled up with pedophiles and Freemasons. And they really want you to hate the Catholic Church. Okay? Meanwhile, also there are Muslims and Catholics. There are entire Muslim regiments fighting for Hitler versus communism and Freemasonry. So even though I've spent a lot of time trashing Islam, I'm not really trashing it. I'm just trying to free you from it. We have to recognize the real threat, which is Freemasonry and Judaism, and how the Jews have created Islam. But at the same time, how when communism, globalism rose up to wipe out God. Okay, the mesotheists, the God haters, atheists, we did all stand together for a moment, and we did fight side by side. And I'd like to leave on that happier note. And don't fall for this upcoming third world war, where they're definitely they're filling up our country with Muslims for a reason. There's a reason why the Jewish lobbies got us to blow up the Middle East, blow up all these Muslim countries, as the Jewish lobbies, the same Jewish lobbies that told us to go to war, are the same Jewish lobbies filling up our countries with Muslims. All right, they're doing it for a reason, and instead of killing each other, I think we need to fight together like we did in World War II and like we did in Russia. Okay, so that is section 1 of the series, Islam and the Second Coming, the Jewish Gnostic Connection. And again, my real whole point, that was really just a rant, because I can't debate this other guy. My main point was all of these religions are dependent on the second coming of Christ, or the coming of a Messiah. If the second coming of Christ already happened, then all of these religions are based on a lie that are and are dependent on an event in history that already occurred. Okay, so that's really it for section 1. We're going to now move to section 2. The prophet Zephaniah and the day of the Lord is at hand.